Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Rocking the old Johnny Cash shirt again. Hope everybody have a prosperous day. Stay focused. Keep positive people around you. So I want to say this, as I was speaking on hip hop, but one thing I always done and will continue to do, respectfully, I like to give a shout out to Harlem hip hop, Brooklyn hip hop, Queens hip hop, Staten Island hip hop, Mount Vernon hip hop, Jersey hip hop, Jersey City hip hop, Staten Island hip hop. And we also have to include Philly hip hop, because it wasn't like if Philly wasn't on the scene right afterwards, because Philly, our neighboring state, definitely played a big part as soon as records started to come out, because they started going to WUSL and DS Radio was giving shows out there. Lady B, who put out a record, To the Beat, y'all. Shout out to Lady B. Shout out to everybody in Philly. You got to shout out the whole Queens, Disco Twins, Infinity Machine, Cypher Sounds. I mean, just everybody from Queens. Sweetie G, everybody from Queens. I'm not gonna name everybody, but you know who you are. In Brooklyn, Jimmy Spicer was one of the first. You had Divine Sounds, and you got groups that came out, Houdini, and the Fat Boys later on. I'm not talking about after records. Now you still got to give props. It'll be a sin not to give the groups that came out any props. Shout out to Flash Gordon. In Harlem, a lot of groups came out of Harlem. Fantasy 3, Treacherous 3, Mastodon, Def Committee, Disco 4, Dougie Fresh, even though Dougie Fresh is really from the Bronx. Spoony G, Fearless 4, all the DJs, the Crash Crew, just everybody in Harlem played a big part. Rolls Royce movement with Willie Gum, Sapphire Crew, late Donald D and Big Fats. Harlem, they were on a lot of our shows and bookings, from Reggie Wells to Eddie Cheever, the late Eddie Cheever in Hollywood. Jersey, in Mount Vernon, you had the Collins brothers, It's like, when we learn to give props to everybody, we can have a more intelligent conversation. When it came to Harlem, everybody from the Bronx, in the beginning, we had to go to Harlem to enjoy records. Then you had Peter Brown, who Spoonie was on. My man Sickle, that had a fish market on Lenox Avenue, put out his own record. He had a fish store, a fish spot. Then you had Paul Winley, Harlem. Then you had Johnny Souls, where Grandmother Theater on Fantastic Five recorded their record, Soul on Wax. Then you had Taster Records at Harlem World, Fat Jack label, put out Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and in the beginning, Lubbock Starsky was on that label. And then we also had Nia record with the Lean Brothers. And Harlem played a big role when it came to records. So everybody from the Bronx got signed in the beginning, except Soul Sonic Force and Jazzy 5, they got signed to Tommy Boy, which was in Manhattan. But all the Harlem labels, and there was a lot of Harlem labels, independent labels. And I heard a story one time from Leslie G from Disco Enforcers, DJ Nequity. And They from Red Hook Projects. And Leslie G said, yo, Van, we used to come over to Ecstasy Garage and we used to come out and hang with Tony Tone and, he go to the shows and stuff. He said, and we took it right back to Red Hook. But we also got to be mindful, that a lot of y'all in the Bronx wasn't born in the Bronx. Some of y'all, not a lot of y'all, but some of y'all migrated from Harlem to the Bronx. Because you thought Red Alert was from the Red Alert might as well be from the Bronx. He went to Clinton and he used to come over to the PAL over there on Fox Avenue, Fox Street, over there where I lived at. Mr. Rainey ran the PAL. Reggie used to come play ball. Jazzy J used to live in Harlem. I think, Red Alert's cousin, they moved to the Bronx. Some moved from Harlem to the Bronx. But, it was where you was born. Rodney C was born in Harlem Hospital, and family went to Red Hook before he came to the Bronx. So like, some people want to claim where they grew up most at. I hung in Harlem all my life, but I'm from the Bronx. I was born in the old Lincoln Hospital on Buckner Boulevard. But neither here to say, what I'm trying to say is, we definitely have to give props to our neighboring boroughs and the brothers, and what they was doing. Because everybody was doing park jams. It's just that when it transcribed over to what was going on in the Bronx and everybody started doing it their way, it's circulated, I remember when me, Mike, and Dave used to go out, this is after records now, go out to Queens and do party at the Olympia Palace and Martin Van Buren High School and things like that. And I remember the Disco Twins over there, Queensbridge Projects, and Queensbridge definitely brought a whole lot to the culture of hip hop. Shout out to Egyptian Lover, Barshawn, and it's a whole lot of people that played a role and may not have got the accolades as those who had the records. Because there was a lot of parties in Queens, and Queens is big. You had Jackson Heights, you got Laurelton, shout out to my man Chucky Chuck from the Rapper Cool 5 who came from Harlem, went out to Laurelton. You had Jamaica Queens, you got Hollis Queens. Baby J used to be at the skating ring. Queens is big. Astoria Projects. Just like Brooklyn. Talking to Tyrone Foucault chilling. And like, how many of y'all really, okay, let's just say it's 1978 when there was a lot of park jams and the MC game was picking up. And the DJs was learning, oh shit, I can learn to do this too. How many of y'all actually went out to the park jams in Brooklyn? Or how many of y'all went out to 40 Projects? When Vic was out there. If you was from Brooklyn, you really went to Queens. You would go to Queens more if you was from Brooklyn than you would go to Harlem and then the Bronx. And if you're from the Bronx, the most you're gonna do is go to Harlem. You ain't traveling out to Brooklyn and Queens. So when things started to happen and things started to move around and everybody started to want to duplicate it, there were a lot of MCs out in Queens, Brooklyn, in 78. Trust me when I tell you, you may not know. We got flyers. Whether they became popular or didn't become popular, they was out there. But we should acknowledge, just not even from the hip hop standpoint, we should just acknowledge from the DJ standpoint that Brooklyn had it on lock. They had the systems, okay? And remember, Cool D and Tyrone, the mixologists who moved to Soundview, they came from Brooklyn. From the Carolinas to Brooklyn. And the sound system used 123 Park was Cool D and Tyrone the mixologist. And they came from Brooklyn. They used to play with Flowers and Master D and them. And those DJs out there, Fantasia and all that. And this is not mixing hip hop with what was just going on. This was just talking about the DJs who had equipment. Because a lot of y'all didn't have equipment. A lot of y'all don't even get the props to the DJs who equipment was being used, because they're important. What I want to say is, just like do it the right way. Intelligent conversations. Me, I always gave blessings to Harlem. I always gave my blessings to Brooklyn when Gloria let me bring the first hip-hop show to Empire Skating Ring in 1983, me and Mike and Dave. Okay? When I did the Galaxy Club right there off I forgot the name of the club, the guy used to let me in there to do shows. Freddie B and his crew and them I did a show with them one night. I brought the Funky Four out there. And then, in Queens, I did the Jamaica Skating Rink, and, they had Encore. They had their promoters out there too now. Lance Furtado and all those guys were doing parties, And, Sweetie G was down with us. And then you still got to go to Long Island hip hop. When Chuck D and them had Spectrum Radio, they had a whole crew. They ain't saying they started it, but they followed the trend. It didn't take long to catch on. It might have took longer for the DJs to learn how to cut and scratch, but it didn't take long for the MCs to catch on. They was hearing the tapes, and they caught on. There's been many times I went to many park jams. Millbrook, Dr. Dust and them was over there. Cause my aunt and uncle lived in 530 off there in Millbrook. You go to Mitchell. Some people couldn't travel. 63 Park with Mean Gene and them. 23 Park and where Melanin was at. 18 Park, behind my building in Patterson. Some people just couldn't move around. My grandmother lived in Morris Senior, right there on 169th Street where the 9 is. Mad DJs out there. Because they might not have blown up to become worldwide known, they did participate, they did have their shows, and they did have their flyers, and some of them did get on some of the show, and some didn't. Like I said, there were 3 tiers promoters, and there were 3 tiers of shows. But everybody should have a collaboration. They're like, yeah, well, when we heard this and we started doing that and we found this out, and things happen. You go back to your neighborhood like, yo, what the hell are they doing? Or what they saying on the mic? And next thing you know, the whole borough, like I said, 77, 78, and 79, up until when the Sugar Hill came out, that was 78 and 79 was definitely a year that a lot of shit happened. They start to see, wow, this is what they doing here. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and get into an opinionated argument. Well, we always had DJs in the park. Everybody had DJs in the park everywhere. I don't care what city you went to. There was DJs in the park everywhere. That's just the culture of black people. We come outside with music and turntable. With the DJs who had the mobile equipment. I ain't talking about bringing no little kid and play. I call it kid and play. I ain't talking about bringing no play school little turntable outside with a speaker, and everybody put their speakers in the window. Who ain't did that if you lived in the projects? But like I said, if you wasn't there, respect those who was there. Now, the same thing goes for those in the Bronx. When they started doing it in Brooklyn, if you wasn't there, respect what they was doing, because you can't tell their story. You cannot tell the story what they were doing out in Coney Island and what they were doing in the White Car Project, what they were doing over there in Park Slope and Bed-Stuy. And you can't tell what they were doing in the Park Jam unless you was there when stuff started to click off. So you don't know what MCs was on the mic in their park in Queens, in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, Staten Island. You don't know if you wasn't there. When Force MCs came to me in 1981, 2 years after records, they were the only one doing it over there in Staten Island. Stevie D, Mercury, and Dr. Rock. Rest in peace to Stevie Mercury and Dr. Rock. That was the first three with Stevie D, the lone survivor of the Force MCs. You know, you have people in Harlem that you might not have heard of, like G-Force or St. Nicholas Avenue and shit. Polo Grounds. You know, like, come on, man. It's like, I think if people be more honest about what they talking about and stop like, yo, man, you wasn't down. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, 1978, when I was going around in Brooklyn, out there with Albert King and Bernard King and them all come from in those different projects, their DJ was outside and there was MCs out there emulating what was going on in the Bronx. You know, throw your hands in the air and say ho and all that. And whatever they heard and they came back, they started to do it too. And ain't nothing to be ashamed of. But you cannot say, if you from another borough, what so-and-so did or what they didn't do. If you ain't never sat down and talked to Jalil, like, yo, okay, so besides you being Houdini, what was you, did you ever get, when you come from the Park Jams, or Grandmaster D the DJ, you know? Because everybody was trying to be an MC at a certain point when the shit started to really flow around and they start to see the flyers, you know, and it was a great thing when you did have flyers with Flowers and Lubbock Starsky and Flash and Pete DJ Jones, a mixture. When Flash went out to Brooklyn, and then him and Flowers and Pete DJ Jones, so Flash went out there and did what he did, his thing from a DJ standpoint, and Lubbock did. So the people in Brooklyn heard that shit. Oh shit, let me go home. I can do that too. I think if we just all respect each other, respecting the culture, you know, it's called respecting the culture, man. I can't sit up here and say many times, my first apartment in 1978 was in Queens. Arlington Terrace off Sufton Boulevard. Baisley Projects and all that, they'd be having park jams and shit. I didn't go deep into the park. I didn't really know everybody over there. 40 Projects had their shit going on over there. I didn't go deep into the project. I didn't really know nobody over there. But the point was, they was doing it afterwards with who they was doing it with, and they have a story to tell. You can't tell them. You basically, for those in Queens, you gotta respect them for what they talking about because you wasn't there in Queens. You gotta talk to Tony Moore. You gotta talk to Divine and all of them, and Ken Do and Ron Do and you know, talk to Lance Furtado, and you even talk to Grandmaster Vic and all of them. They'll tell you what they was doing. Remember that big show, 1979 at the Armory? And everybody was at the Armory, 1979. Flash, Hollywood, Trinity Machine. That was like one of the best combination of people from different boroughs there. Talk to Ralph McDaniels, he'll tell you. Some people may not be telling you, like, yo, this happened at the PAL on 183rd Street, or this happened at the PAL on 123rd Street, or this happened at Mitchell's Gym, or wherever you was, but it's the same thing. We cannot go into their borough and say, yo, but you parked up in the spot in Brooklyn, in their projects, when they was doing their parties, emulating what was going on in the Bronx. On that note, wish y'all have a great day. Another Hip Hop 101 with your brother Vansilk, cause not in my house. I'm gonna keep it 100, respectfully. In order to get respect, you have to give respect. Cannot come out and just diss each other like, oh, y'all motherfuckers wasn't down in the Bronx. Okay, I love my borough. A lot of people wasn't down in the Bronx. But once it transcended out of the Bronx, still early, I'm telling y'all, 78 was a hell of a year. You talk to any of the brothers, I was out there, 78, and trust me, they're flyers. They got their own flyers. They were doing their own things, and you gotta respect it, because you wasn't out there when Jimmy Spicer, rest in peace, my brother, jumped on the scene and was doing stuff in the parks. Unless you lived out there, you wasn't there. If you from the Bronx, you stayed in the Bronx. Trust me. Same thing was happening in Philly when they started. Gotta give them props. Jersey too. So on that note, y'all have a blessed day, and I'm out.